Good evening. I'm Getchen Walsh. I'm the director of the Academic Support Center at Notre Dame College, and it's my pleasure to be with you tonight. Nick Formica is also with us, and Nick is the assistant director of admissions at Notre Dame College. So if you have a question, after we go through the academic checklist or the high school checklist for college success, if you have any questions on the admissions piece, you could definitely ask Nick that question. And this presentation, which is the high school checklist for college success, will be helpful for you if you have a son or daughter who's in high school and may be struggling, or if you have a son and daughter who's in high school and planning to go to college, it'll be helpful. Or if you as a parent would just like to pick up some more tips on how you could better assist your student, your son or daughter to become a better student, this will be very worthwhile. So with that being said, I want to touch on what I consider the most important skills for academic success. And when they posed that question to me, the first thing that came to mind was executive function. And executive function is the ability to set goals, to build structure into your day. It covers time management. It's as simple as making that class. It's the ability to make that class when you're at college, to get up for that 8:30 class. That's executive function. It's the ability to wake up with an alarm clock. It's the ability to structure your day so you reduce your anxiety. What can you do to help your son or daughter to increase executive function so that they're able to become the successful person that you'd want them to be? A lot of times I see students with very high IQs, and you think, my gosh, why isn't everything working the way it should? How come, like you have this high IQ, how come the grades are like C's and D's? What's missing? It's probably executive function is missing. It's probably the ability, the executive function gives you the ability to harness that intelligence. If you don't have executive function, the 150 IQ or the 170 IQ does you no good. You have to have the ability to use it. Now you can start the student while they're in high school, waking up with an alarm clock, have them wake up in the morning themselves. First you start the pattern and then have them transition so that when they go away to school, they're able to do that. The next thing you should have them do is keep a planner or a calendar on a daily basis. They should structure out all their days. When their classes are, when they're, if they're in a sport, when their practices are. If they have social activities, they can even include those, like movie night or going to a friend's house, doctor's appointments. All of that should be on their calendar. Then after they've mastered the basic calendar, then you can go back with their textbook and with their classes and with their assignments and mark them on the calendar. Show them how to do it and how to break down their assignments. This is something similar to what we do for our college freshmen to improve their executive function. We go over their syllabi with them at the Academic Support Center. And if they have a paper due at the end of October, we're going to go back a week or two for the research. Then we're going to go back after they've done their research. Then we're going to help them with the outline, then the rough draft, so that they can be prepared by the time the assignment is due. It makes a huge difference, reduces the anxiety, and the student doesn't spiral out of control. You don't want them to get in the middle of the semester and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do, I haven't done anything, and here it is. And the same thing can happen in high school, where they get behind, the farther they get behind, then they figure, oh, it's not even worth trying. So you want to prevent that moment of giving up, and that is done through the organizational piece. Another thing we do for our students along the organizational line is we have a system, and it's called the Master, and it's a binder system and of file folders. And so you're going to have like tabs for PowerPoints, tabs for tests, tabs for handouts. And the master binder is going to have a pencil pouch in the front with pencils and erasers and everything they need. And that'll be the control binder, and that'll be with their one major master class. And then the other binders will be used with the other classes. College, we usually have a schedule with 4 to 5 classes, so we'd have a binder for each one of those classes. And we would help the student to set the binders up in the beginning, and then they'd use them throughout the semester. At the end of the semester, clean the papers out, and they can reuse them for another class. You could do basically the same thing for your high school student. You also could add into their organizational kit, which is something that we've done. We have the file folders and we have the binders, but now we've added technology into their kit. We might add in noise-canceling headphones. We might add in the Livescribe Pen or a piece of software. So these are things that you can do for your son or daughter while they still are in high school to help them to become more organized and to help them, with the executive function that is so very important. And then the second most important skill, so we have the executive function, and then the next thing that immediately came to my mind was the ability to read well. College, the workload is increasingly more, it increases, and it's more independent than it was in high school. So you have more reading to do. If you have a student that's a struggling reader, this is going to increase their tension when they go away and they realize, oh my gosh, I have to read 5 books for one class. Or I have to read 3 chapters in this textbook and it's so big and I can't remember one chapter when I've read it. What am I going to do? Okay, what can you do to improve a student's reading with comprehension, rate, and fluency? Well, there's a number of things you can do. One thing that you can do to start off with is you can use muscle reading or SQR3. Those are strategies for reading. And there'll be other strategies if you are interested in these. Has anyone here ever heard of SQR3? Okay. That's one that we like to use at Notre Dame. And basically what it stands for is survey, question, read, recite, and review. And it seems like it's difficult to do it first. Once you've done it through one chapter, you can do it quickly, and you're able to move through chapters in a textbook at a greater rate. It's great for, it's probably the best way of reading textbook material. Muscle reading is another possible way. And if you want more information on these reading systems, you could look at the book Master Student. That's the textbook that we use in our summer study skills class, and it will outline these programs for you. And I also don't want you to consider reading only in the traditional sense. I want you to also to consider audiobooks for your son or daughter if they're having trouble with reading the traditional, in the traditional manner. And if you notice great difficulty, and if you've had them tested and they happen to have dyslexia, you could have them learn to read over again with a Wilson reading method or an Orton-Gillingham reading method. That's a great way to do it. It's a little bit more time intensive, but that would be like the first, you know, especially if they're a younger student, that'd be the first thing that I would suggest doing if you realize that they really struggle with reading. Now, we've considered strategies for reading, we've considered audiobooks, we've considered a new reading system such as Orton-Gillingham or Wilson. I also want you to consider using adaptive software. And this isn't something that is relegated to the world of learning differences. These are mainstream tools. They have legal and medical vocabularies built into them, and they're frequently used. They're time savers. That's why they're so popular. Kurzweil and Read and Write Gold. They're very easy to use. If your son or daughter emails his friends and uses Microsoft Word, he should be able in 20 minutes to understand this and be able to use it like an expert. It is certainly not difficult. Excuse me, with Kurzweil or Read and Write Gold, you can have your textbook scanned in, read back to you on the computer. You can stop at a word, get a definition for that word. You can highlight with the program. So if you're reading in a textbook and you've got the Kings of England, you could highlight their names, when they lived and what they did. Then you could go under File to extract notes and have your notes printed out. So they're very adaptable pieces of software. You can use them in conjunction with a textbook. You could use them in conjunction with the internet if you were doing research to have it read back to you. It helps you to master material that your son or daughter might otherwise not be able to understand. And I use this example frequently, and I used it earlier today. I had a student that had to read Gulliver's Travels, and archaic English had little or no interest in the subject. With the help of Kurzweil, he was able to read the book and then write a report on it. So it helps you to get through difficult material quickly. And then the Livescribe Pen is wonderful for note-taking. And it's a versatile tool, more on the note-taking side than the reading side, but it can capture, if you're in class and you just write down one word to capture what the professor's talking about, or say for today, like what I'm talking about, you could write high school checklist, hold the pen there, and then it would record everything I said. Then you could take the chip out of the pen, put it in the chip in your computer and have the notes printed out, or you could take your pen and put it back to the word high school checklist and it would again say out everything I had said. You can use this in work meetings, like if they're giving out statistics in a meeting and they're talking really quickly and you're having trouble following, you could just write like stats 2014, hold the pen there. It would record everything and there'd be no room for error. So these are tools that can be used in the classroom. These are tools that can be used in the world of work. They're very user-friendly, and it increases your academic strength and your ability with executive function, and reduces anxiety in a student because they feel like they're in charge. So these are things that you should consider. Also, you should consider possibly taking a special study skills class. I know in high school, every one of your children have been taught about study skills, but somehow or other, it doesn't resonate with them until they have to go away to school. So if you can get them to take a study skills class right before they set off for college, It's wonderful. We do the Summer Springboard to Success at Notre Dame College. It's meets once 1 week in June, 1 week in July, 9 to 12 in the morning. Someone asked me before, oh, you do have to be a Notre Dame student to be a member of this class. No, you don't. Any student transitioning from high school into college could be a member of this class. And this isn't the only one. You could check with your high school to see if they offer a study skills class geared, for students going away to college, or you could check, other local colleges. But it's very important. You want your student to be ready the minute he sets foot on that campus, so that he doesn't waste time understanding how to read a syllabus. He doesn't waste time understanding how to handle the reading load. He doesn't waste his time wondering, how should I be a better note taker, or what about time management? He's ready to go the day he starts, and that's why the study skills class is so important. And I see the kids paying better attention because they know they're going to use it right away. As soon as they know that, oh, I'm in here and it's June, and I know in August I'm going to be going away to school. I better pay attention and understand what's being said. And then we've tracked the grades of the kids that have done the study skills class versus the ones that haven't, and there is definitely a difference in the GPA, 0.5% difference, which is substantial. It's a difference between a C plus and a B. So it makes a big difference. So that's, those are my, sort of the key features for academic success. The organization, the executive function, the reading skills, the adaptive software, the study skills program. Now, the other thing that you can do for your son or daughter, and this falls under executive function and as well as goal setting. And while they're in high school, have them set goals for themselves. It can be something simple. Maybe they're going to get all their assignments in on time, and that isn't that simple, but it sounds simple. Or maybe they're going to attend every class. It sounds simple again, but maybe it isn't so simple for them. Or they're going to go to bed at a reasonable hour. So have them try to set some goals. When they're in college, we have our students set academic goals for themselves. And, some of the goals, just as we mentioned, they're pretty simple, like get up for your 8:30 class, or it might be to get all my work turned in on time. That's one that I hear frequently. Another thing that they can do is see themselves as a college student. If you have a reason for going to college, but it makes it much more meaningful. Everybody does a better job if they know why they're doing something. So if they know why they're going to college, they're not just going to college to fill their time in, or because it's the thing that everybody does, or it's everybody in my family goes to college, so I'm going to go to college. No, if you have a reason for going to college, you're going to be a better student, and that reason probably is going to be a career. So get a vocational assessment while you're in high school. You can ask your high school guidance counselor if your son or daughter hasn't had a vocational assessment, if they could do one. I know the strong vocational assessment is the classic standard and has been used for years. It's an excellent tool. We use My Plan. It's a software program. Matches the interests of the student up to those in different careers, and then you'll get a selected career. Maybe it's a nurse or an accountant or whatever. So you'll have interests similar to a person that is in the field of nursing. Then it'll tell you, where the jobs are, what do they pay, what are the educational requirements, what are the physical requirements, so that your son or daughter then starts thinking, oh, I do need to go to college if I want to be that nurse or I want to be that accountant. That requires a 4-year degree, and I had better stay on top of my studies because this is what I want to do. And there are jobs that I could get with this. So it gives them a reason for going. Very important. Another thing, and this was emphasized in the meeting downstairs, getting a part-time job or doing volunteer work looks wonderful on a resume, increases your social skills, gives you another way to display your intelligence, or gives you a sense of self-worth. Maybe you're not the strongest student academically, maybe you're not the star of the class, but you might be the best person with customer service, or you might be the best at the animal shelter, working with the families that come in and with the children. And that'll give you a sense of self-worth that you can't get in the classroom, and that's very important. And also build your resume. So volunteer in an area that you're interested in. Try to get a part-time job, but you should do something. I'd say career-oriented or goal-oriented, so that you can see yourself and giving yourself a reason for going on to college. Now, the next thing that, while you're in high school, help them to increase independent living skills. You don't want them when they go away to school to have to be worried about basic things that they should have learned in high school. These include waking up with an alarm clock so that they're able to get themselves up. This includes handling money, a debit card, a credit card, a checkbook, letting them understand the value of money and how to handle it. It's very important. And it's not something that you've seen enough articles to know that this isn't something that's innate to children, that they have to have somebody show them how to do it. Laundry, again, they might need somebody to show them how to do that, separating the clothes out, putting them in, putting the laundry detergent in, so they're not at a loss when they go away to school. They don't have to waste time worrying about things like that. They kind of know already what to do. Preparing a simple meal, packing their lunch, making a grilled cheese sandwich, something as simple as that, but they should be able to do something, especially if they're going to live in off-campus housing later on, or if they have a kitchen in their dorm room. Self-advocacy, so very important. Knowing who you are, knowing what you need, and knowing how to get it. Now that is a tall order. If you can do that, you can do anything. It's certainly hard to do it at 18, and it's hard to do it at 40. But if you can start your child on understanding who they are, what kind of learner are they? Do they learn best auditorily? Or do they have to read something to understand it? Are they a visual learner? Do they need that PowerPoint to remember what the professor said? Or can they just sit in class and listen and be okay? Different types. Or are they the type that's going to have to pace around and move around? Are they kinesthetic? Is that what they're going to need to do when they're studying? If they are, then they should know that, so that when they study, they allow themselves space to walk. And maybe if they're kinesthetic, maybe they need to take a squeeze ball into class so they have something to touch and feel while the professor is talking. The more you know about your learning style, and everybody has a preferred learning style, the better off you'll be. When our students come, the freshmen, we always give them a learning style inventory, just so that we know what type of learner, so when we work with them for tutoring, we can adapt the material, to their preferred learning style. Makes a big difference. And so you want to help your child. You can even say, oh, I noticed, you really do a great job listening whenever I have friends over, or participating in the conversation. I bet you're an auditory learner. And then you can ask them a few more questions, and maybe they are, that'll start them thinking, am I an auditory learner? Is that how I learn best? Or, and there isn't one right learning style, but everybody has one. And some people are a combination of a number. And that makes it probably the easiest to retain information, but that's something you need to know. Another thing you need to know is if you have a learning disability, you should know what it is. Oh, you've got ADHD. So how does this affect you? Does it make you need to sit in the front of the class so that you have less distractibility? Is that something that's important for you? If you do have ADHD, or if you have dyslexia, do you need to use that audio book? You should be able to get accommodations. That's knowing what you need. And how would you get that? You'd have to go to the disabilities office. So that's all part of knowing what you need and how to get it. And that's self-advocacy. Also, when you set off for college, be sure and get an updated physical, hearing, and vision checked. And you should do this while you're in high school. You have to be in good health, basically, to be able to receive information and retain it. And if your son or daughter, when they do go away to college, they will require, if they live on campus, a physical. The hearing and vision, everybody should have that checked regularly. Because again, you don't want anything extra to interfere with the learning process. And if they're seeking accommodations, obtain all special testing records and medical documentation. Same as I would say to save a copy of the physical for yourself, send the one copy off to school when they go to the dorm. You should save a copy of their psychoeducational evaluation, their IEP or multi-factored evaluation. If they've had accommodations in high school, it's important for you to have that information and then to send a copy to the college. And again, update the psychoeducational evaluation while you are in high school. If you update it in high school, it's the cost of the test is covered by the public school district. If you wait till after high school to have it updated, you'll have to pay for it yourself. And not all insurance policies cover the cost. Again, increasing awareness of your learning style, and if you have a learning disability, that too, and know your rights and needs. If you do have a learning disability, be aware that every college that you go to under ADA law has to provide accommodations for you. Now, that's level 1 accommodations. All colleges have to provide that. So you should be able to go to that office and request those accommodations and get that letter so that you can then present it to your professors. And then some colleges provide level 2 accommodations, which go above and beyond, a little more extensive. They go above and beyond what's required by law. So that's an important thing for you to understand. Now, before we wrap up, how about any questions as we go along? That's a lot of information. Yes? Yes. Well, basically, probably you're going to see it listed as basic services or comprehensive services. If it says comprehensive services, then you have to dig a little deeper and see what do they mean by that. The basic services are some of the basic services. There's a list of about 75 different things that can be provided for you under ADA law. And they would include extended time on tests, reduced environment for testing, extra time on tests. Those are all basic accommodations. Now, what would fall under the comprehensive services would be things like adaptive software, tutoring, goal setting, maybe career counseling. Those are all extras that aren't required under law but make a big difference. And so therefore, there's level 1, which is ADA law, section 504. Level 2 has many layers to it. That's why you have to be the informed consumer when you read it over. And that's a good question. And usually they will list it with comprehensive services. If you look at like a Peterson's guide, which will list out colleges that have accommodations for people with learning differences, they will list out the comprehensive, the schools that have the. You can disclose at any point. Your accommodations don't go into effect until you disclose that you have a self-disclose. In other words, like even if you send your child off to college knowing he has a learning disability, if he hasn't disclosed that he has a learning disability to their access office or their disabilities office, he will not receive accommodations. He has to disclose. I encourage, like for myself, I think it's best if you go in right away and disclose that you have the accommodations. Because then you're going to be picking a school that is aware of that and is going to provide for you what you need. And if it doesn't seem like it's going to fit your needs, then it's not the right college. Because they should be receptive to you. It's certainly so very common today. So it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just, again, just a different way of, taking in information. It's without a doubt totally acceptable. It's not a mark against you. And it cannot interfere from the admission side. It can't interfere, right? No. Mm-mm. And a person, yes. No, that's yeah.
I was wondering the study courses that they offer, to help study. You had recommended that they take them in between, before they go to college, in between senior year, freshman year. Would they be any help while they're in school, in between whatever?
From my personal experience, I think they are most meaningful if the kids are going to have to use that skill right away. I have students.
They're really directed towards studying
at college, okay. Right? Exactly. That's what I think. That's when they're going to pull upon it the most.
All right.
Yeah. I think while they're in high school, you can do study skills, individual tutoring for study skills or study skills classes if you want. But the summer springboard that I mentioned before, I think you need a study skill. I think every kid needs like a general prep before they go to college on what's needed. Yeah. Yes.
I have a quick question. You mentioned calendars twice in organizing, and how can you get your younger student, either early high school or later high school, ready for using a calendar? Because it's really a battle sometimes.
How about his cell phone? I mean, like, how about it?
Electronic?
Electronic works just that, and we tell the same thing to the kids. Like, if you want to. It doesn't make a difference to me whether it's on your phone or on paper. It's as long as you use it and access it. That's the most important thing. Yeah, and it's the same. It'll be exactly the same thing. And if that's a better way for him to use it, then that's great because he's always got it in his pocket. It's good.
Are there any professionals who will help with trouble with executive functioning, or young high schooler? Yeah. What kind of professional would be able to help?
You could talk, what kind of, a coach. You could look for an ADHD coach if you wanted, or a coach with executive function if you wanted. You also could recommend, I would recommend too, like again, the study, if it's, depending upon what area you feel like the deficits in executive function are, I would recommend a study skills class with a respected tutor. That would do a lot.
Like typically organizational skills, that's what I think.
Yes, organizational skills. You could, if you pick the right, we have a tutoring program for high school students, if you want, called The Hand, and we would go over executive function in that.
Is it over the summer, or is
you can run. We've been running it throughout the school year. So if it runs just the same as the calendar year for your son or daughter in high school. So you could, and is that that's downstairs? Mm-hmm. You could pick up a brochure, but that would be a way to, The Hand, yeah. Help at Notre Dame is what it is, yeah.